Hello, everybody. It's Phil Jacobus. It's October 8th, Friday. I'm in my office in New York City. It's a beautiful day, and today there are two other people in the office. How exciting. Today I'm also going to be joined by Michael Machuca, who is with Medical Outfitters down in South Florida. Uh, Interesting fellow, and we'll hear about some of the challenges that manufacturers' representatives face. But first, let's take a look at several stories that are on our news this week, our news online. One story, you may be familiar with the Butterfly Network, a handheld single probe whole body ultrasound machine, and how the company is developing that product. We wrote a story about that. It's probably worth taking a look at. Um, Also, Amaved had a virtual conference, and they had a virtual panel discussion in which they talked about some of the challenges that supply chain leaders faced during COVID-19 and what they've learned, and maybe how they'll incorporate that into the future, their future plans. Also, on our online news, we have the latest issue of Healthcare Business News magazine, our print edition. So if you don't receive that in the mail, there's a chance for you to check that out. Remember that our online news is free to sign up for. I really encourage you to do so. Hello, everyone. Today, as promised, I'm joined by Michael Machuca, who are also known as Miguel Machuca. Is that correct? I always call you Mike, but Mike, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Phil. My pleasure.
Mike is one of the founders of Medical Outfitters, along with his business partner, Mark Zielinski, and they're located down in near Miami, Florida. Mike and his team are manufacturers representatives for a number of companies, including Hitachi, Carestream, PlanMed, the French company DMS, and Candelis, the PAX company. And I knew Mike when he was just first starting out, and Mike, everything is going very good for you, so I'm so happy.
Thank you very much, Phil. We appreciate your support.
So, Mike, tell me, during the pandemic, have you found that hospitals bought more equipment, less equipment, or about the same?
Well, initially, hospitals were hit pretty hard. They didn't have the budget to acquire new equipment. And now we find ourselves changing a lot of older X-ray equipment. And they're also spending more money now in all areas of their radiology departments.
I see. And so is it fair to say that the challenges that were created by COVID are, with respect to hospitals buying product, are now behind us?
There are still challenges, budgetary challenges mainly, but hospitals down here, at least in our area in South Florida, are pretty well equipped to handle the current situation.
Now, I think you told me that there's big demand for radiology equipment, and I assume that's because it's a way of diagnosing COVID. What challenges have you faced with respect to delivering and installing the equipment that you're selling at hospitals?
Initially, we encounter supply chain problems. Not one company was equipped to deliver the volume of X-ray systems that were requested worldwide. OEMs gear up and they resolve their the manufacturing problems, and they're pretty much all running to full capacity now with good availability. And the second challenge was exposure, protecting our team. The FSCs, they have to go into hospitals to install, and then the application specialists from the OEMs were to full capacity, really, to get trained, to get people clinical applications. was quite difficult. The months of March and May all the way through the beginning of July were pretty difficult. We couldn't find protective gear to send our guys into hospitals. So we had a number of challenges to overcome.
Did hospitals place greater restrictions on you coming inside the hospital?
Absolutely. They would not, no hospital would provide protective gear because they didn't have enough to go around for their own employees. So we have to sort out that problem for our guys. And we were not allowed into any hospital without it. Nor would we want to expose our guys to that type of danger. But they were quite thorough in still now even more. Before anyone can go into a hospital down here, temperature checks, full gear. And if that's only to go into the regular areas, if you're going into COVID designated areas, then you have to go into full protective gear.
I see. So I assume that the same is true for after sales service.
We really couldn't get appointments to go visit any client. No one really wanted to see us. In fact, most of the hospitals down here and the credential companies would allow sales reps.
I mean, if the machine is down and you have to go in and service it, and you don't have protective gear that day, what happens?
We couldn't go. We could not go into the hospital.
So somehow you found protective gear for all of your staff.
Yes, we did.
Now, the in-service, the applications and that sort of thing, is any of that taking place virtually?
Well, we do as much remote monitoring as possible. All new equipment that we sell is being monitored by either the OEM that we represent or us directly. So yes, absolutely. We try to get as much done remotely as we can.
But can the applications, can the OEM teach the hospital employee how to use the new gear via Zoom or via something else, or is it all done in person?
It all has to be done in person. There were hospitals going from the older Carestream gear to the newer Carestream gear, and there's a lot of similarities. So there was equipment we delivered where the employees were able to get up and run with it pretty fast and postpone applications initially without compromising the clinical application. But that was those were rare events. For the most part, we were able to deliver equipment and applications. There were a lot of people out there that put themselves at risk to serve. And it was admirable really to see what a lot of people went through just to make sure that the service were available to the population out here.
Now, I know we talked about supply chain. What about supply chain of spare parts for a machine that's in need of a spare part? Is that back to normal, or are there still delays in that line?
The parts were always available. The problem we encountered were logistical problems because airlines were flying protective gear all over the world, and delays were encountered because of lack of availability for transportation, either by road or air. So again, that was really where we encountered problems. It was logistical problems.
Okay. Now, I know from our telephone conversation that you're involved in construction, which I thought I was hearing things when you told me that, but what's the story there? Why are you involved in construction projects?
Construction, I noticed when we have full control of the project with architects and the construction crew, we can shave months out of the delivery schedule because we're familiar with the gear, with everything that's going on. If we can save a hospital or a private diagnostic center 4 to 5 months, sometimes even 6 months out of a project, that's money in our client's pocket. I believe that in the future, if any company out here that want to be successful will have to incorporate construction into their portfolio of products because it helps the client ultimately.
I see. Well, you're either way ahead of the curve or crazy, but only time will tell. Now, uh, generally speaking, from your standpoint, things are back to normal.
In South Florida, things are back to normal for the most part. My son actually just returned to school yesterday. Restaurants are open to full capacity. So if you go outside, out here in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, South Florida, you
Yeah,
will.
I'm referring to healthcare. I have a feeling, of course, it's just me. I have a feeling that letting people get together in the way they did in the past is an invitation for trouble. But with respect to healthcare, you think that the supply chain, service, and are back to normal. Those things.
I believe that this is going to be, in terms of business for our healthcare business, it's going to be the best year many companies ever had. Uh, I believe everything is back to normal, and community hospitals and well, mainly small community hospitals have money right now to spend on gear, on new gear. So it is a great moment for the small hospitals all over the U.S. And I believe that if we are punctual with our moves, this will be the best year on our books, at least.
Well, Mike, I sure hope you're right, and I hope that things are back to normal and that this is one of the best years we ever have. And I want to thank you very much for joining me today.
I thank you for your help and assistance you've always given me since I started 20 years ago. Susan Trano, our CFO and partner, Mark Zelinsky, and I thank you very much, as always, for your support.